want to do today is obviously answer questions as we go, but I'm going to talk about work on improvising, how to improvise an arrangement. A Christmas tune. I've been meaning to do something holiday related, and I haven't gotten around to it, and I thought that maybe it's my favorite tune that doesn't get played often. Like at Eastman, there were certain tunes that get called. In New York, there's certain tunes that get called. In school, there's certain tunes that get called to you. But my favorite tune, nobody else but me, that's one. But some people call that, like Alton calls that all the time. And I like to play I'll Be Seeing You. Sometimes it gets called, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends really like where you are and who's calling what tunes. Like people at Eastman when I was in Rochester used to call milestones, the old milestones. But I don't think people play that anymore because I have some students that went there and then they told me that nobody plays that anymore. So I don't know. Do you release a CD and a book in the same year? If so, how far apart does it matter? That's a good question. They're different audiences, right? So I release different things to different parts of the audience because you're not oversaturating if you're aiming at different parts of your audience. Like a book, like a trombone book, only goes to the trombone people, and only the trombone people that are interested in like educational resources. It doesn't go out to the whole music industry like a record does. A record goes out to the industry, right? You know, and so that's one part of it, as opposed to like everyone, you know. And I try to only target those people that are interested in a specific thing. So yeah, I mean, I'll release a book and a record in the same year because they're not the same. It's like an educational product and then a record and then maybe another educational product. I'm working on finishing up a music business book. It was supposed to be done by January for Jen, but we didn't quite make it on the production side, but it'll be out in 2022 sometime. But so I'm gonna release that. I just made a record, or we'll just release a record in November. So, I mean, I think it's about that constant flow of having stuff and aiming it at different parts of your audience. So, you know, I have, for me, the label stuff or like the consulting that I do or building websites, all these kind of like social media stuff. And then trombone stuff, music and education, you know, that's two separate things. And then, what did I say? Yeah, music and education. So that's three things, right? So I have at least three areas to make different content for, to make different products for, to make different releases, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to attempt to try to record and improvise an arrangement during this hour that we're live here. But we're going to do this. So first, I just printed off a lead sheet. I know I'm cheating, but I just wanted to be able to do this relatively quickly. But the first thing I'm going to do is set up the session. So if I got a good tempo. And so what I'm going to do basically is just like layer things on. So I'm going to play one thing at a time. So I'm going to start with the bass, start with the lowest part, and go from there. And I'm going to set it up. So I'm going to do two choruses, I think. Yeah, two choruses sounds good. So it's going to take a minute to get through these two choruses. It's going to take, 3 minutes or something. And so this is how you improvise an arrangement of a Christmas song. Part one. Eventually you'll start to hear these layers and this will turn into a nice little arrangement, I think. So here we go. 2, 3. All right. So the next thing to do is going to be able to now remember that I have to actually remember what I just did. So I did 2 choruses and then I doubled up the last couple of bars. Cool. So now we've got the basis of our song. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of play something that's harmony, right? So now I'm going to try to layer on here and add something that's harmony to what we've got already. So now I'm going to just kind of play some harmony. Okay, so there's two parts, but yeah, we'll be here. Let me just add a quick compressor here to make sure this is loud enough. There's just a couple that I like, so I'll just kind of cue them up here and make sure that it's going so we can hear both. Oh, metronome is so dang loud. Whatever. Okay, so we've stacked so far. We've stacked two parts, and we're going to stack a third part now. So what I'm going to do, I think, is play the melody, because that way I can figure out like where I can add more harmonies. So I've gotten like a bass line here, and then I've gotten a harmony part. Pretty boring. It's probably been pretty boring so far, but now we're going to actually have the melody. So I guess what I'm going to do is play the melody, and then I'll improvise, and I'll go back to the melody at some point. And then from there, we'll be able to figure out like what else can I add, to the arrangement. All right, so there's another part. A little bit improvised there. So now we've got three parts. We got the melody, we got a harmony, we got a bass line. So now we got to figure out like what do we do with this now, right? So we've got a bunch of things. So I think based on what I remember of what I played, there's definitely room for another part, if not a couple more parts, especially like the last 16 bars of the arrangement, and especially the last couple of bars of the tag there. So I'm gonna add one more track here, what I'm going to try to do is find, I'm going to use my ears primarily and try to find what the heck to play. So like where should I add more? Where should I play less? And if there's a note that's missing. And wherever I go up the octave, I know I've got a chance to like add some more layers in there. And maybe something will happen and then I'll be like, oh, I can add to that. So I just try to use my musical instincts here and kind of see what happens. So let's see. It'll take exactly as long as the last two did. All right, so I tried to add in those last couple of bars there. Let's get rid of this. Let's see what it sounds like. All right, so it's not terrible. It's a little funny there, but we're just like a little bit out of balance here. So what I like to do is then give it some space here, meaning everything sounds the same. We got 4 parts, which is enough really, but make some space here. So by make some space, let's add some literal acoustic space. So get some a little bit of reverb. I don't use that much complicated of stuff. I'm not like a brick mixing engineer here. All right, so it's back. All right, now we can see what's happening. There we go. So what we want to do is make sure that it's mixed relatively okay. And so what I like to do is put one of the harmonies on the left and one on the right so that we can kind of get some separation between the trombones. Alright, so that's okay. Now, something that could be kind of interesting to do is to see if we can just kind of make a double of this bass trombone. We'll see if this works. See how well in tune I played. There we go. Pitch correction. So we want to make sure that it's like somewhat correct, right? So we'll make it pretty slow, or else it sounds like craziness. And then we also want it to shift down an octave. So we do pitch shifter. Just because I wasn't having a bass trombone, you know. So we gotta go down 12 and then make it only that, no delay. Alright, so we know when I export that it'll sound a little bit better, so sorry about the computer fail. But alright, so that kind of gives you an idea. So I'm going to turn that kind of down a little further so that it's not like obviously there and in your face, but so you can hear a little bit of cool. Now to me it sounds like a little flat, so not like pitch flat, but it sounds a little just, I don't know, boring. Yeah, sparkles a little bit more now. But anyway, thanks for bearing with me. Just trying to try something different. I'll finish that, and you'll probably see it posted next week sometime on the YouTube channel, or maybe tomorrow. Maybe I can get it together by tomorrow, but probably for next week. But you know, it's a good exercise just to see if you can like know tunes, and like if you're getting stuck when you're arranging something, just to like see the connection between, see the connection between improvising and your musicianship and your arranging, and just how they're all interrelated. One really affects the other. You know, I really think that composition affects your improvisation, and vice versa. It really is. Doing both things can be extremely beneficial for your development and for just knowing what you're into, like knowing what sounds you like, knowing what things to play, and just doing something like that can be a good exercise in like voicings and like guide tones and like all the things that you work on that are kind of all kind of ancillary or feel like random. Like if you can see that like all those tools of like knowing arpeggios, knowing what's happening in the upper extensions, knowing the melody, knowing the bass line, all of that stuff is important when you go to do something like that, which is to just you know, play this duet with myself or a quartet with myself. Slightly off topic, but just finished How Equal Temperament Ruining Harmony, and was curious about your take on intonation and band setting. Oh man, yeah. So, I mean, it depends what it is, but if you're playing with just horns, like especially just trombones, that's a beautiful thing about trombone choir or trombone ensemble, is you can actually play in tune. So I'm a fan of using just intonation when possible. And as long as the pianist isn't doubling you on the voicing, then you're good. So like when I'm writing, I try not to double the piano voicings. I try to write the piano to do something other than double the horns, you know? But, so yeah. So, and that even goes with like what position you choose to play things in. Like, you can hear it pretty well in the key of G flat, right? If I play a G flat here, and then the third here, it doesn't ring quite as well as if I play it here. That you can hear it in the room. You might not be able to hear it through the live stream, but using like the same partials and matching them can be the positions and matching it up like within the same overtone series. It rings a lot different. You'd be really surprised. And so you can play. That's why like the key of G and G flat are pretty nice on trombone, because you're in the middle of the instrument, the slide, and then you can play the overtone series. So if everyone's playing, but if you got somebody playing in first and everyone else playing in fourth and fifth, doesn't ring quite the same way. So I'm a fan. Is it something professionals do or aspire to, or is it more of a highbrow concept? I guess it's probably a highbrow concept, but it's something that it's interesting to me, so I talk about it. And it's worth investigating, that's for sure. Okay, for the development of the professional artist, marketing a product takes a lot of practice and working towards keeping your audience active. What do you think musicians on social media should be doing more of to get their product out there? Well, it's different for every artist, but the general problem is that people don't tell their audience what they're doing, maybe myself included. And then having a disproportionate ratio of brand building versus selling, not even marketing, but brand building versus selling. So I watch a lot of videos, business videos, et cetera, and if you go deep enough into that world, you can kind of learn the difference between like marketing, branding, and selling, right? And so usually musicians, artists tend to get them all mixed up, and they start to try to build brand and sell and market all in like one post, and it doesn't work that way. You have to be judicious with your asks of your audience. So if you think, maybe 10% of what you offer to your audience should be like salesy in some kind of way, or like asking them to do something. So that means 1 in 10. So that means if you want to post every week about your product, that means you've got to be doing so much extra stuff to help with the brand building that it offsets the ask. So that's what I think about. Does it always work out that way? No, but making sure that at least 1 in 5 or 1 in 3 is the ratio of like an ask to a building brand, or so telling your story, the marketing. So that's the biggest thing, is knowing the difference. So keeping your audience active, there's different things you think about in a social media strategy. There's posts that go to nurture your audience, your existing audience. And then within that, there's people that are interested in different parts of what you do. Not everyone is interested in this question, for example. Like some people are here for jazz, some people are here for trombone, some people are here for everything. Some people want music business advice. Obviously Taylor does, because he asked this question, right? But like all of those things, you send posts out for certain people. Of the 20,000 people on my Instagram, certain percentages is going to want the different things, right? And he followed up here with saying, is there such a thing as posting too much? Sure, there's such a thing as posting too much. But I doubt that you'll really get there, because your posts don't show up to everyone. It goes out to 1 to 2% of your audience. So if you got 1,000 people, that means 10 people are seeing it, right? 20 people. And those first 10 or 20 people that see it, if they have a positive reaction to it, then another 5 to 10% will see it after that, or even less than that. So it's like, it really has to go to your top audience and get liked, and then it starts to get shared out. So if you're sharing too much, you don't have to worry, because it's not going to go to the same people, because like it's going to go to the people that react to a certain type of thing. So you might have people in your audience that love video. You might have people that love photos. You might have people that love personal stuff about you, like it's your mom and she wants to comment about what you're doing, or it's somewhere more along the lines of a very specific guitar technique that only the nerdiest of guitar players is going to want to know about. What if you're using sites like Patreon to share information? Do you find that source reliable? So I've never done a Patreon, because I kind of just like operate in a different way. I could get $5 from people on Patreon or whatever, but I structure it so that I do as much as I can for free, and then I charge a premium for having participation in my virtual studio. So I have a virtual studio where I post a new lesson every single week, and it's in depth. Like we're going in depth into Curtis Fuller right now. We did 3 months on drones and intonation. We've gone deep dives into language and deep dives into all these different things. So there's like, I don't know, 150. It's since every week since 2017. So at this point, there's 200 or so lessons in there, and that's a subscription that I have. And then I have courses that I sell and books, and those things for me take the place of a Patreon, right? And to have a Patreon subscription, because like there's some people that want subscription, there's some people that hate subscription, there's some people that want books, there's some people that want courses. So I try to do all those different things. Free, lots of free stuff, and then I have products that are more like mid-price, like a book, like a $10 book or something like that. Then we have the studio subscription, and then all the way up to like packages of lessons and all this kind of stuff. And so it's on a sliding scale, you know. I try to make most of it free, and then the more individualized the attention is, the more it has to cost, you know. So that's how I've structured it, and how other people have done as well, like Bob Reynolds, you know, or they don't even teach private lessons, you know. Richard has a question. Any advice in playing tunes in 3/4? Yeah, don't always play the same rhythm over and over again. And then don't get stuck in da do de da dee da dee da, right? You want to feel the 3 and the 4 at the same time, so you want to hear. Right? I'm playing 3 and 2. I don't know if I can do 3 and 4, can I? So that would be changing. So dee dee da da dee dee da da dee dee da da dee dee da da dee da 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 dee dee da da da. Right? So I can say it. I can't play it, but feeling those different subdivisions of the bar, right? Because the 3/4 bar is the same as 6/8 bar, right? So you can split it up as da 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 da. So feeling both of those things at the same time. And then you can play 4 over that. And so the trick with 3/4 is that it's a different rhythmic language than 4/4. So what tends to happen in 3/4 is people get locked into a rhythmic pattern, which it makes it difficult for them to get out of, and it makes it difficult for it to sound like music. Sometimes it just sounds like you're trapped a little bit, or just like a little repetitious maybe. I know you have composer's piano, so when you work on being proficient on the instrument in some way, what helps you become a better pianist? For me, the main thing is like trying to figure out independence, you know, because I want to be able to play a bass line and chords with the right hand to accompany my students. So I work on walking bass lines and playing basic chord shapes. Something that I want to work on is getting better at actually being like a functional pianist and playing voicings, because I can't do it. Like if you ask me to comp through a tune on a gig, I can't. I have to use one hand because I'm so used to playing either composer's piano or like accompaniment piano that like that's what I'm okay at, like actually playing voicings, and that's what I need to work on. That's one of many things. But to get better at that, I use the hand-in book. There's a hand-in finger technique book to get the fingers together, and then just playing, you know. So I also use it to learn tunes, right? So I play the bass lines, I play the chord voicings, and I sing the melody. I'm also bad at playing the melody on the piano. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, this is going to be the last one for, I guess, a month or so. I appreciate everybody's support in the last 2 years of doing this Q&A. I hope it's been useful. And obviously, we'll continue it in a couple weeks. But I'm going to take a little bit of a break. Content break. I need a little bit of a break. And it's going to be busy with the holiday season. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday and a great new year. We'll be back in January. We're going to kick it off with another session. We'll kick it off about goal setting. It'll be a goal setting Ask Nick, and we'll go through some prompts, I think, and talk about goals and stuff like that. But I'll see you then.